on, everybody? It is episode 95. That's right, 95 here on Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helly, Hunter Hughes back with you. Our guy Jonathan on the controls as well. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union for sponsoring this episode. We record this Wednesday, June 21st, about 12:05 p.m., just after noon here in Hawaii. And are all set to release this as usual on our Thursday release date. That'll be tomorrow, June 22nd. A lot to get to. We got a lot kind of on the docket here today, especially for the middle of June, which we will never, ever, ever complain about. Quick opening drive to get things going. Last week we talked about it. We get like more of a formal confirmation since we recorded last week's episode. But Hunter, the video board is apparently going to be ready for the home opener against Stanford right at the beginning of September. Which, of course, is not what we were told like 2 months ago. But there were some hints on social media. We talked about it last week, and some of the powers that be kind of confirming the board should be there in about a month and a half's time, or at least ready to go in a month and a half's time.
I just got a text from UH's Colin Schaefer, who's their video coordinator. And it was some pictures of it being put up down there at TC Ching. So, hey, if it's being put up right now, it's a very good sign that hopefully we'll have electricity to it by September 1st. So definitely trending, Jordan. I think I've shifted my position from bearish to bullish for this thing to come to pass when it's supposed to.
Yeah. We can't forget about the electrical. Even if the board's up, they got to be able to, power it and go through. So yeah, I think I said a month and a half's time. Really, it's like 2.5 months, right? July, August, and then the rest of June, getting ready for that. What is it? September 1st opener against Stanford. So yeah, there's some optimism. Hey, one of these construction projects that may be moving along at an acceptable pace. A lot of those bleachers going up. I'm sure a lot of you folks catching that on social media as well. All right, before we get into the nitty gritty here, I want to remind you that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, HawaiiUSA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community as well. Visit HawaiiUSAFCU.com. All right, game time here on episode 95. Some big things happening, both with recruiting. We kind of pick up that conversation almost where we left off last week, and then also some things happening within the Mountain West Conference as well, in particular regards to San Diego State. We'll get into that in just a second. We'll start off with some further verbal commitments for the class of 2024, local verbal commitments. This coming on the heels last week where we talked about Isaiah Carvalho from Kamehameha Schools, Tui Muti from Punahou. We get a few other guys committing in the subsequent days as well. You've got edge rushers Noah Wiley of St. Louis and Alika Kavako Amoy of Punahou, who both had some offers from Power 5 schools, as well as I think it was like the day after, So Campbell offensive lineman Joshua Tavui becoming the latest guy to offer his verbal commitment to the University of Hawaii. Tavui a little bit more of an under-the-radar recruit than Wiley and Kavako Amoy. Noah Wiley, all of these guys, class of 2024 guys. So all of these guys will be seniors come the fall. Could potentially sign in that early signing period in December would be the earliest opportunity to sign that binding national letter of intent. Of course, we mentioned they join the likes of Muti and Carvalho, as well as Mike Alejado, the quarterback from Bishop Gorman. Wiley with offers from Arizona, Oregon State, Washington State. Kavako Amoy also with an offer from Arizona, also included on his resume, offers from Air Force, Army, and Texas State as well. So Hunter, this momentum that we've been talking about, and again, I always add in the caveat, like these guys aren't signed. Right. A lot can change between now and December. We've already seen guys commit and decommit. I'm not saying that they're going to do that, but I always like to kind of put in that fine print little disclaimer. Boy, I hope they all stay. But there's clearly something building here. The message that Coach Timmy Chang and his staff have been conveying to local recruits, the connections, the relationships that they are building. That is now 5 guys, 6 really, if you include Micah, right? Alejandro, who's a local guy who's just happened to be living in Vegas now. So really like 6 local kids, 5 of them at local high schools,
Yep.
who have bought in, who are, at least for the moment, very much on board. And they all kind of have had similar things to say, both on social media and then when talking to a little bit more of the formal media as well. Staying home, defending home, restoring Hawaii to kind of the glory that they remember as little kids. There's something deeper there. There's a little bit more of a connection, and man, this seems to be building. And you know, at this point, you can't sign them, but the best you could do is to get them to publicly declare that they're going to come. And boy, they're doing a pretty good job so far.
They are. You know, I thought about it a little bit earlier this week when Josh and I were talking on Off the Bench about this, and I think Timmy can embody something to these local recruits that other coaches just aren't able to. I think the fact that he's from here, was a stud in high school, was a highly touted recruit, had other offers, and then chose to stay home, speaks weight to kids like this. Of he understands what they're going through, understands the position that they're in, and also can kind of show, hey, there's a chance of creating a legacy similar to what we experienced back in our playing days. He can embody that stuff without ever uttering a word. And I think that carries a certain weight with local families, with local recruits like this, that you just can't simulate, Jordan. I think it really does speak to just who Timmy and this coaching staff, who they embody as people. And we've mentioned on the show some of the higher touted recruits, the 4 and 5-star guys, that IMG offensive lineman, even just including the hat, the University of Hawaii hat in his top 5, ultimately signing with Miami. We had another example of that this past week with tight end Elijah Lofton from Bishop Gorman. Similar situation, had UH up there with the likes of University of Miami, Texas. I think he had maybe a couple other Power 5s, potentially Arizona were in his Final 4, and he ultimately signed with Miami. But the fact that Hawaii is in that hat, like the hat battle, if you will, shows that in some ways we can compete with the Power 5 with the right kid, with the right story, with the right ties, I guess you would have to say, because there's no question that the tight end from Bishop Gorman, with Chris Brown being his former coach here, that helps. Assigning his quarterback, Alejandro, who's going to be here in 2 years' time, that also helps convince a tight end to come and play with his quarterback, because they already have that chemistry built in. There's a lot built into some of these decisions, and Hawaii is kind of slated to be successful with these recruits. And man, it's exciting to watch.
It is. Micah Kaapana, who was another class of 2024 guy at Bishop Gorman, 3-star running back, who we talked about when he, Alejandro, Lofton, and another one of their teammates were down here a couple of weekends ago for a recruiting visit weekend at UH. He also had Hawaii in his finalist. He ended up committing to Michigan. And look, like it's going to be tough to win those. But as you point out, they're making the final table, right? Whether it was him, Francis Mauingoa, the offensive lineman at IMG. There's been a couple of other of these examples. The young man who was playing who committed to Oregon, the safety, whose name is escaping me right now. He was another one that had Hawaii. He was a local kid who had Hawaii ties as well. And so they're continually appearing on these nationally televised, little recruiting commitment deals. And it's going to be hard. I think, look, if Hawaii starts winning games, if Hawaii starts contending for conference championships, that'll help their cause when they try and flip some of these guys, or at least convince them to stay home, right? As good as Alejado is, he's still a little bit of an undersized guy. I think Hawaii has been able to, take advantage of the fact that, some of the bigger programs maybe still sleeping on him a little bit. But now you're starting to see not just that, not just, the 4 or 5-star guys, some of the big boys put the hat on the table, but not ultimately pick it. But you're starting to see some of these local kids buy in, right? Because that's something, look, the program has never really had in Timmy Chang, as you point out, right? Like this instant connection, this instant credibility, for as great as, June Jones did during his time. He played at UH, right? But he wasn't necessarily a guy who grew up here and played quarterback in one of the storied programs, right? Whereas, sorry, come again.
Sorry, he's a Howley guy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Right. You can say a lot of the similar things about Rolo, right? Who had an outstanding quarterbacking career at UH. Found a lot of success coaching wise. Yep. Did what he could locally in terms of recruiting. I think very much was part of the fabric and integrated into the culture. But he didn't grow up here. He didn't play quarterback at one of the power schools there. I mean, you go back to Dick Tomey and Bob Wagner and guys who had so much success, and were like Timmy. Just he has a different background than a lot of these coaches, right? And it's I think something, and he's obviously filled out his staff with a lot of those guys that fit a similar bill, right? That we talk about with guys like Jordan Poole Robinson and Chris Brown and on, and Jake Yoro, and a lot of these guys. Not all of them obviously went to high school here in Hawaii, but have direct ties. And it's just, there's something different about that, right? There's something different about being able, like, you can't be what you're not. And I'm not faulting, and obviously Rolo and June, for 2 past examples, won a lot of football games, right? I'm not saying this is the perfect way to do it, but you can't be what you're not. And for Timmy, right, he also can't walk in there and say, look, I've won, a ton of football games as a Division I head coach. Like, he can't be what he's not. That's not what's on his resume yet. But what is his connection, his relationships, his background, that instant credibility. And they have sold a lot of these kids. And I don't want to come that off as a negative connotation, but they've sold them in the vision that they have going forward. And they've, I think, reminded them, or at least, tapped into that pride that they have. In being a kid from Hawaii and playing for the state school and playing for the University of Hawaii and playing for something that's a little bit bigger. Like, you see that. We're not just kind of making this up. Like, you've seen that in the comments from these guys, what they've posted on social media. They've bought in. And again, I hope, the vast majority of these guys see it through and follow through on their commitment, because if they do, I think this will continue to grow. And I think what you're seeing, and this isn't anything new, but this is, I think, refreshing to see that it's the University of Hawaii that's experiencing this, but they seem to all be trying to recruit each other as well, right? Like, they're trying to get guys. Nelu Lafayette is one of them, the St. Louis rush end, who is a big time recruit, big time. And I see a man on Twitter, like, a lot of these guys, like, hey man, might not be a bad thing to stay home and whatnot. And
good old fashioned.
It's just kind of cool. Like, it's really cool, because I don't know if we've seen it to this level anytime in recent memory. Like, some kids have stayed home, some local kids have stayed home and whatnot, but this, like, really tangible network of kids that are like, hey, let's do this together. I don't know if we've really had that before, in part because social media has only been around for so long.
That's right. And you see famous examples of this. I think of the Fab Five in Michigan in the early 90s, when they were kind of calling each other on, hey, let's go and build this thing together. You're from here, Jordan. You'd be able to speak to that much more than I would. I'm kind of a transplant out here, moving over here in 2010, but that's pretty unique that they are talking that way for a mid-major. And we're not talking about slouch guys. We're talking about 3 and even 4-star talented guys that are getting serious Power 5 offers. I mean, when you're talking with the Texases and the Michigans and the Miamis, you're a dude. You're a dude if you're talking with these guys. And we've talked about it at length on this show. The beauty of the transfer portal. You never know in a year or two from now with this open door policy. You don't think Timmy and the guys would create room for these guys if they just said, hey, I'd like to give it a shot again? I think the door is more than open for these guys down the road, especially with a kid of Alajado's stature coming in and creating that bond here in Hawaii. It could be the next couple of years could be wild, bro.
Yeah, I hope, man, just keep the momentum going. Obviously, some of that will be contingent on showing improvement this year on the fields, winning some football games. That'll get people excited. That'll get kids excited. If things fall flat or something like that, a little less excitement, a little less buzz for sure. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I guess I'll amend my statement. It's not like this hasn't happened before, but it's usually dudes talking at the park or at camps or things like that. But with Twitter and everything, like, it's a little more out in the open, and we're a little more privy to the lobbying that goes on amongst these kids and trying to play together. And it's cool that Hawaii is front of mind for a lot of these guys. And as you point out, for the next couple of years, things could get pretty exciting for the University of Hawaii, and I think a few of these guys play some pretty big roles. No doubt about that. The question is partly what the next few years will look like for the conference. We do know that San Diego State, this was no well-kept secret, intends to leave the conference. This was kind of interesting last week, Hunter. I'm sure you are privy to this, and some folks that tune into our podcast have been following the news a little bit. But apparently, San Diego State sent a letter to the Mountain West Conference, basically informing them that they're going to leave. We don't know exactly when yet, with a couple of other requests in there, extension on notice, because there are like certain checkpoints throughout the year. Like, you have to notify the conference by X date in order to leave by X future date. And that also comes with an exit fee in the tens of millions of dollars that you have to pay. And you have to pay by a certain date, depending on when you let them know. There are certain deadlines that they come up every year. Usually it's around late summer as you head into a season and things like that, where I think college football fans are well versed in that based on a bunch of the departures that are taking place. Oklahoma and Texas, UCLA, USC, some of the schools that are joining the Big 12. This is nothing new. But apparently San Diego State, in this letter, is reported by multiple outlets, asked for an extension on when they can give official notice by, as well as a reduction in the fee. And as you would imagine, Hunter, shocking here, the Mountain West Conference said, no,
Matumbo,
we're not giving you any concessions on this. And in fact, doubled down on it. And San Diego State, who took the position that, hey, this wasn't an official notice that we are leaving. It was kind of just a courtesy, like, hey, heads up, we're probably leaving. The Mountain West Conference actually are taking the stance that no, this was your official notice. Like, we are leaving. Or excuse me, you are leaving. This is the official legal notice. The clock starts now. You have till X date to pay us our money, basically, is what it boils down to. And San Diego State's like, whoa, that's not what we said. In part because, look, they're, I think, in large part waiting for the Pac-12 to figure out their TV package deal. And then they could bolt, or maybe working for a better offer from the Big 12 for San Diego State. But the Mountain West not having it.
No, they matumboed San Diego State, not in my house. This is essentially like driving down the lane and then half-heartedly throwing a little touch shot up there, not really expecting it to go in, and then Mountain West just swatting it into the second level of the stands. And then all the while San Diego's like, I didn't really try to shoot the ball, but if it went in, hey, it goes in. This is a weak move, Jordan. This is a weak move. If you're really the big dogs and you think you're at that level to jump up from mid-major to Power 5, you don't pull a move like this. Come on. If you really are at that caliber and that level, you're willing to pay whatever it costs to jump up. If you're really a contender. To me, this is weak, man. Also, I dug in a little bit more. It's not official, but the Pac-12 is still trying to figure out their TV deal and how lucrative that's going to be. And based off of some of the numbers, and I am not a CPA, I don't know all of the numbers here. I want that very, very clear and understood. It wouldn't, after San Diego State pays this exit fee to the Mountain West, at least at the beginning, they would barely be coming out breaking even if they did go to the Pac-12 right now. It's not like they're going to jump to the Pac-12 and make a gargantuan amount of money or anything like that. So the thought remains, because, hey, USC and UCLA out of the Pac-12, I hate to break it to you, it's not the Pac-12 of old. They're, I mean, not all that much more glamorous, honestly, than the Mountain West. And obviously we're biased over here. That's our conference, and that we're going to talk along those levels. But name me 5 teams outside of Oregon, Washington, and Utah that are better than any other team in the Mountain West. Name them. I mean, we beat Arizona the last time they came out here. We hung with UCLA. They didn't destroy us. I mean, they beat us, but it wasn't that crazy. We beat Oregon State. What is the Pac-12 any longer? I mean, we're experiencing a shifting of the tide right now, and San Diego State is kind of caught in the middle, riding the fence, and not really sure what they're going to do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things play out, right? Because we've seen some of these schools that have made the jump, not just in football, but what Utah has developed into in terms of an athletic department is quite impressive. Especially what they've done in football, but basketball has been really competitive. Look, their softball team was in the Women's College World Series. TCU joining the Big 12, football wise, playing in the national championship game. Basketball wise, they've been a regular in the NCAA tournament under Jamie Dixon. Their baseball teams in the College World Series. And so, it goes beyond football in a lot of ways. And like you mentioned, it's a long-term investment for a university like San Diego State, right? Because you're going to need to bank on the fact that, hey, we're going to improve our profit, our revenue down the road, because as you mentioned, it's a pretty big exit fee that they've got to pay. And then who knows what the Pac-12 deal will look like. And that's why I kind of mentioned the Big 12 as well. They may be waiting to swoop in.
Yeah.
For a place like San Diego State, Boise,
Southern California market.
Yeah, and so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this all unfolds. It's not as stable a footing as when Utah jumped, when TCU jumped, when some of these other schools that went from non-Power 5 to Power 5, made that leap. It's much more unstable now. Especially because, everybody's climbed up the ladder. There are fewer scraps to be had. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see. And who else kind of follows suit, right? Because I don't think it'll just be San Diego State moving in the future from the Mountain West. How that changes the landscape, what dominoes does that essentially start to fall, or at least start to kind of push forward in consequence? Yeah, I think it's just funny because the way this is playing, it just, to me, just reminds me of it's like, hey, you're dating the girl that you've been with for a long time, right? San Diego State, one of the founding members of the Mountain West Conference since 1999. Like, you got this good thing going. You guys have had a great relationship. But then, the hotter, more popular girl comes along and she's like, hey, want to go to the bigger dance, and you're like, sounds pretty good. Might raise my profile in with the cool kids, raise the prospects a little bit. And you're like, well, I still got to break up with my current long-term girlfriend.
But the new one hasn't given me any assurances yet.
Not yet. We're not 100% sure that you're going with her to the dance. And in the meantime, I'm going to have the talk with my current girlfriend and just kind of let her know, like, I don't know if I'm going yet. I probably will be, but if you don't mind, can we continue to date in the meantime? And I'll let you know when this is over, as opposed to, it's like, that's not really how it works. It's not really how it works when it boils down to it. And I think as a fan of a Mountain West school that isn't about to jump ship, I'm pro conference on this one. It's like, no, pay the money if you want to go, you can go. But yeah, no, you can't have it both ways.
I hope we smoke them this year when they come here. That'd be so fun. Oh, you think you're big, big dog headed to the Power 5? Oh man, I'm gonna be letting them hear it on the sideline, bro. I don't care if they're involved in it or not. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's gonna make for some interesting developments over the next few weeks and months leading up to it as well. And I'm sure this will be a massive topic of conversation come the Mountain West Media Days, which will take place in like 3 weeks, middle of July. And on that note, we'll talk about who will be representing the University of Hawaii at Mountain West Conference Media Days on the other side. We'll take a quick halftime break. Second half coming your way right here on episode 95.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, second half time here on Hawaii Football Now, brought to you by Spectrum Mobile and HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union. Jordan Hunter back with you on episode 95. We're 5 away from 100, man. This is boiling down. We were promised 45 episodes ago by Coach Chang that he would come on for episode 100. So we're still efforting that. And I'm not saying that he's gonna renege, but it's just, we're planning things. Yeah. So hopefully look forward to that in about a month, really 5 weeks time as we're going forward here. But yeah, 95 in, that's kind of crazy. But anyway, Mountain West Media Days coming up in Vegas. We're still trying to see if the station will send us up there. Probably not. But we'll just keep shamelessly making the ask on the podcast here. We know Coach Chang was going to be there, as he always is. And the 2 player representatives for the University of Hawaii made known this past week as well. Iliki Tanuvasa, veteran offensive lineman on the interior, announced as the offensive representative, and Logan Taylor, linebacker, reserve, now a starter, unquestioned team leader, and he's one of the 2 who are going to represent the team at Mountain West Conference Media Days. Pretty big deal, I think, for both of these 2 guys, right? Obviously, Iliki, who was a FCS All-American, transferred back home, has kind of stepped in. I think his, tried to find the opportunity, right, where he was going to play on the interior of that offensive line. New coaching staff comes in, I think solidifies things there a little bit more assuredly for him. But 2 guys that I think have kind of pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, if you will, and well-deserved honor for these 2 guys who are going to be relied on massively come the season.
Yeah, they're without a doubt the 2 of the, handful of leaders on the team, with Logan being kind of the guy on the team outside of Braden Shager, our quarterback. And it's always refreshing when the big guys get some love. Jordan can probably count on one hand how many offensive linemen get the invite to go to Mountain West Media Day. So that's speaks to something more than just him as a player. I think he speaks for the whole team and represents the boys in a bigger capacity than simply being a senior on the offensive line. So because only 2 guys get that invite to go and represent the team out there with all of the rest of Mountain West. So stoked for them, and put the sunscreen on. It's gonna be hot.
It's going to be hot. Yeah. The pool's kind of nice there at Circa, at least taking some of the big screens out there at Stadium Swim, cool off a little bit for the guys there. That'll be fun. We'll learn a little bit more, right? And Media Days, that really is going to kind of signal the eve of the season, if you will, right before they get into camp. We'll learn a lot more. We'll get into some of the comments a little bit later from from you, the listeners and viewers. But our guy Al from VA, man, is just nonstop, and I love it. But he was asking about some of the guys, right? Like his favorite, Ian Ediose Katia. He was talking about Derek Boyd, because we'll learn a lot more here over the next month. Dudes are working out in the weight room and whatnot right now, player run practices and things like that. So we it's kind of, I like to think of it as, for now, like we can observe and whatnot, some of these workouts and whatnot. But for the most part, when it comes to discussing like depth chart and roster makeup, we're kind of frozen in time in a little bit of a way. Guys will still be arriving. Some of the dudes
they're
are
not here
coming in.
yet. Some of them.
Yeah. So it's still, we're kind of, again, for lack of a better way to phrase it, kind of in pause mode. Right. And we'll learn a lot more. And obviously when they get to media days, that'll kind of signal things. It's like, all right, now we can get into it. Now we can kind of see, okay, who's shaking out, who's where, who's not where, in terms of position and things and all of that. But we're getting close. We're getting close. And I love that my guy from Alpha VA is always asking. He brought it up because he's like, run and shoot. You need the big physical running back, right? You need the blocking back, a guy who can catch the shovel pass and get out there. I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about, man. I just love it. I just got excited. I was like, this is all great. And in part getting me excited. Phil Steele's preseason All Mountain West selections are out there. Phil's one of the best, man. I think he is the preeminent source when it comes to preseason preview magazines and publications. And a guy who's like always willing to do interviews. I've heard him on a lot of local shows over the years, and truly knows like more than anybody, like details, and always has a really good knowledge of Hawaii. He's got 7 guys. He goes 4 teams deep, by the way, on his preseason all conference teams. Like, he leaves no stone unturned. He's got 7 Hawaii guys scattered across the 4 teams there. He's got corner Cam Stone, the Wyoming transfer, as a first teamer, 2 second teamers, Logan Taylor, the aforementioned linebacker, as well as Tylen Hines at running back. Third teamers, he's got guard Solovai Pulu, and on the defensive side, defensive lineman John Tui Tupo. On the 4th team, he's got wide receiver Jalen Walthall and long snapper Solomon Landrum on there as well. And the dude's got 4th team long snappers in his preseason selections. Like, that's a detail you will get few other places. And this is not a paid plug by Phil Steele. I just love his stuff and his work. So a little bit of recognition, some names that we expect to have a big go. Tylen Hines, maybe not your prototypical run and shoot running back, but a guy who will be all over the field, most likely. Kind of tying into some of the questions we got on the comments as well from last week.
Yeah, gotta think our guy Braden Shager takes lists like this to heart when his name is not listed. This is a proving year for him. You gotta show out, bro. They believe in you. This is now the 2nd season that we have kind of staked our claim in you as the quarterback, and put aside the Joey Yellen stuff at the beginning of last season. Like, the majority of last year was his year as well. But we need you to rise up and become Batman, if you will. We need to see that, and I hope that not seeing your name on lists like this kind of light a fire under your butt a little bit. And we believe in you, bro. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think of guys like him. Trying to think if there's anybody else that has kind of been left off this list. Going through the roster right now. Jonah. Jonah's the only other one that I could think of. Pinoke, coming back for, I think this would be his kind of super senior season, coming off injury. He has just as much of a likelihood as any other wide receiver to go off and be named in a list like this. So I'd be looking at that if I was Jonah as well. So best of luck to these guys heading into the season. The lists really don't mean anything other than for guys like you and me, Jordan, to talk about and get hyped over. They mean nothing when it comes to actually playing the game, but I know for us guys, it's got to create motivation and create a little bit of fire under your butt to get things going.
Yeah, it's great fodder.
Yeah.
It's great to talk about. Yeah, I think, for the University of Hawaii, if they are going to be much more pass heavy here in 2023, like some of these receivers will naturally work their way into consideration for all conference honors come postseason, right? Because of the prolific numbers that they'll put up. Guys like Peter Monuma on the defensive side as well, I think
Right.
are poised for further breakout type performances. Some of the new faces that have come in, it's always hard to extrapolate, right, when you're dealing with some of these JUCO transfers, some of these young guys coming in. So that'll be cool. It'll be really cool to see kind of how things develop with
And
the ones
Solo
that have,
sat last year out. Sorry.
yeah.
Solo sat last year out. So we're excited to see him back out there again.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know who else is excited? Our guy Al from VA. We had a couple of other folks that mentioned in. Our guy Michael on the comments as well. Shout out to Leonard who dropped us a line on the YouTube comments as well. But Michael and Al from VA replying to him, they got their Vanderbilt tickets. Al from VA is all set to go to Vegas too, I think, according if I'm reading his comments correctly. Looking for like the music in Sin City, like pre-game events. Like he's all in, man. He's all ready to go. He's already talking about like a week 0, take a football camp on the road, hit the recruiting in Nashville. Like I'm telling you, man, he is a big picture, big idea guy, and I just love it. But it's cool. We mentioned, right, like if the team going to Nashville, they go to Vegas every other year. That's always a fun destination game, not just for those folks living on the mainland, but for the folks in Hawaii as well. But when they get a chance to play in Michigan like they did last year, or when they're going to get a chance to go play in Nashville, it's a great opportunity for Hawaii fans who, as we always kind of knew, but learned further from the great folks that interact with us, on our postings on social media and whatnot. It's just a great opportunity for those folks to go see Hawaii football in person, a little bit closer to home, a little bit easier to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the Ninth Island, baby. They're kind of our adopted home game, and some have started to mention this rivalry between us and UNLV. Not really, to be honest. It's more of a courtesy thing because we play for the trophy and the pineapple and all that hogwash. But I'll tell you, speaking from the boys' perspective, we would much rather be playing Fresno when it comes down to it. But it's always fun to go to Vegas. I'm excited to go this year. This will be my first time going on a road trip and see how we do out there.
Yeah, it's a big party when that gets going. It'd be interesting too with the new coaching staff there, right, at UNLV, and how much they play up the rivalry a little bit as well. Because interestingly, right, for Coach Timmy and a lot of the guys on staff, like that wasn't a game. I mean, they played, but it wasn't a conference game, right, during their time because of the departure of the Mountain West schools when Hawaii was left in the WAC. So a little bit of a different dynamic there than with a school like Fresno. All right, quick 2-minute drill to get us out of here, Hunter. Former Hawaii football associate head coach, Coach Schmitty, Brian Smith, former University of Hawaii center in his playing days. He's been named the associate head coach at Ohio, where he had joined the staff. I think it was before last season. I think this is going to be his second season there. Pass game coordinator, running backs coach at the Mac school. And he's associate head coach now. Pretty big deal. A guy who's, obviously held similar titles at the University of Hawaii, at Washington State as well, was kind of Rolo's right-hand guy in a lot of ways on those coaching staffs, has experience calling plays, has experience coordinating offenses, and has now built up quite the nice resume, outside of just, being at the University of Hawaii, or outside of just, kind of being Rolo's guy along the way, right? Not that that's a bad thing. Obviously, they had a lot of success coaching together, but now that he's kind of branched out on his own, is continuing to do really, really well. So congrats congrats to Coach Smith, man. That's pretty cool. Guy I know you know well.
I mean, this is an identical role to what he held at UH. It's kind of fascinating that they almost created it for him again over there. Associate head coach, had play calling responsibilities up in the booth on the passing side, but then also oversaw the running backs. So kind of a very unique peppering of responsibilities, if you ask me, because if you're overseeing the running backs, but you're responsible for calling passing, that can kind of be counterintuitive. But he found a way to be successful with it over here at UH, and I think they're going to give him a shot to do it again over at Ohio. So hats off to you, Schmitty. It's awesome.
It's a lot of running backs in route, man. We're going 5-man protection. We're getting the running back loose. We're getting them in route. We're getting 5 receivers out there. That's what I would do if I was like the running backs coach / pass game coordinator, right? Which wasn't necessarily the case at UH. Like that was, it's not how they operate. But that's just kind of what I scheme up or dream up there. It's like, well, we got to get these guys the rock one way or another.
Everybody's working on their hands.
Yeah. Hey, if you got a running back that can catch, man, that's all the better when it comes down to it. This has been a lot of fun. There's a lot of information to get out there to the folks. A lot of fun topics. We'll dive into that a little bit more next week as well. There'll probably be more news on the conference realignment front with San Diego State and the Mountain West. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a few more commitments between now and then as they continue to kind of keep this thing rolling as well. Hunter, always a lot of fun, man. Appreciate it. And to our guy, Jonathan, as well. Big thanks for, editing this thing up. You guys hear only the good stuff. He just edits all the nonsense that we jibber jabber throughout the way as well. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile and HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union as well. We'll see you next week on episode 96, everybody. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.